right, so,
We need to take a vote, right?
Probably should just, because we have no chair tonight, or vice chair, we need to appoint. And unfortunately, you can't do it.
No, that's not unfortunate at all.
You're not allowed.
so I'll step forward and, be the acting chairperson for tonight, if that's okay, since our chair and our vice chair are absent.
And you probably should appoint
Yeah,
Rich.
I'm gonna appoint, actually, Rich and me to serve in place of Rich and Tim. And, we have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order at 7:03. And looking at the agenda, we do have Lauren here for, item 1, continuation of the site plan review for home on Connecticut. So, let us begin continuation of that site plan review. I guess the first question is, are we legitimately continued because we wrapped up the last meeting? Since Lauren, you weren't here at the last meeting, and we didn't feel it was appropriate to take action, we did, take the step of asking the select board for a continuation, since we've, exceeded the review date, and you weren't here to agree to an extension. So we did that in your absence, and,
Select board approved a 90-day extension.
we have a 90-day extension, and that would be from the meeting from last
Yes.
week, or 2 weeks ago. So, and what is that date, the 90-day extension?
I don't have the exact date to.
Okay.
I can.
Yeah, if you could just, we should get that just out on the table. I'm sorry you weren't able to attend because we did have the fire chief here, and Michael Hensley was here also. And, you know, so we were able to hear from them, their concerns. And I wonder, have you had any follow-up with the state since we last saw you? And we did receive your kind of annotated list and schedule. And have you had any contact with either Aaron or Michael since our last meeting?
I requested if Aaron had any issues with the plan, or if he was not prepared to support it, I asked him to reach out to me right away so we could discuss it.
Yep.
But he didn't respond, and I didn't have any contact with the state.
Okay. So as far as you know, we're following the state fire marshal's review and the standards that are contained in that like 35-point review?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just going with the, whatever the use is. Okay, well, that's nice that we get that settled.
Now, the select board had requested that the state fire marshal office act as the building official to do the permitting. And I have an email from Aaron, which I will pass around, where the state fire marshal has agreed to do that.
Oh, that's news. I know we had asked for that
Yeah.
pursuant to Aaron's request, and we didn't come up with that on our own,
Right.
or whatever it's
Can you
worth. But he, when we met on Tuesday, we had not heard back on it.
Right, I didn't hear back from, I actually had to reach out to Aaron yesterday to find out, so, and he had just gotten it.
Can you send a copy of this to Lauren so he has that for his files too?
Sure.
Okay, so we've just received some information that the Marshal Toomey is, and who's he? Does he work at the state fire marshal's office?
Yes.
Okay. Will act as our building official and assist the town with the permitting, plan review, and inspections to correct violations at home on the Connecticut. So that's what this message says. And we have also, please notify the property owner, so we're
Yep.
doing that right now, and have his contractors apply for the appropriate permits through our online MyGov portal with instructions below. So,
And this is dated yesterday, so it's
That's
not,
right,
not a lag in
right.
communication.
It also says, as the applicant, you will receive automated email messages as the application works through the approval process. The approval is not complete until you receive an email from, it looks like it's Spectre and DOS NH, New Hampshire, Gov, with the permit attached. So, that is good news anyway for the town, because we have an official who can review the work, and which goes to the plan review. So one thing that I'll note that was clear to me was that the schedule that you had proposed seemed a little extended to our fire safety people, and they had a concern about things being, maybe that the schedule could be shortened so that all the work would be done, not in 2.5 years, but sooner. And so that's the request I know that they were making. I'll also say that there was a feeling that since the rooms that you are seeking permission to create have already been occupied, and we have unsafe conditions, that it doesn't seem right that they should be occupied. And I believe that there was a letter that went out.
It has not gone out, I have just been buried, and it's on my,
Okay, so it seems like.
Who's hold on, occupied? Tell me more. This is my property, and I'd like to know about that.
Right, well, in our comments from the fire chief that we received, oh, it's the first letter, let me just find that. If anybody else happens to be able to put their hands on that. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I would be leading this discussion, otherwise I would have had my papers better sorted out. No, I'm not gonna. Oh, I do have it. Okay, so we were given a letter at the last meeting, and I'll read you the first part, because that's all you need to hear right now. The fire department is not opposed to this proposed expansion of use. However, and this is from Aaron Rich, our fire chief. However, the fire department does request the following. One, that the board acknowledges that the apartment is already constructed and has been occupied. So that's what I'm referring to about occupancy of the apartment that you were seeking approval for.
There is no occupancy, and we had to do all of the state fire marshal permitting, and we've been moving that forward because this process has taken like 6 months. So to be able to have the permit not get canceled, we had to show progress. So we haven't completed the work, but we had to show progress. And so we had the electrical permit, and it's from the state fire marshal, and they approved the plans, they approved the electrical permit, they did the inspection of the electrical, they did the inspection of the plumbing, they approved all of that, they approved the life safety. So we've been working with the state fire marshal all along through the permitting process to get this done.
Okay, so you've been talking to the state since we last met with you?
Not not since we've last met. We've been working with the state since we initially submitted this for site plan review like 6 months ago.
And is there anybody living in either of those, the new bedroom or the
They're
former
not
exercise
occupied.
room?
We have stuff in there, but they're not occupied. There's no one occupying those spaces.
Well,
Not until this gets approved.
okay, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, but we were led to believe that people were in there. So, and you'll be sure that until we get the permitting done, that nobody is occupying, or it doesn't look like it's being occupied?
Yeah, no one will be occupying it until it's approved.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad to get that cleared up. Okay, the letter that we received, goes on to say a couple of like kind of no starters for them. So they would like you to, have the manufacturer's cut sheet submitted to the town and placed in our file for this escape window that's in the basement, that's been installed,
Okay?
okay? And then,
That's part of the state fire marshal's approved permit plan, so that's already been approved by the state fire marshal, but I'm happy to provide it to the town as well. The
Okay.
state fire marshal already approved it.
great, well, they just wanted to have it on record here so that we knew that it was done. And then your architect review, I guess now the state will be reviewing the architectural plans that you're having done. Fire alarm system is required to be secured from any resident to have access to the panel. Have you done that? I mean, I know you're
Yes.
taking the sticky notes off, but how is it secure from any resident to have access to the panel?
I can show you, I mean, it has a lock and it has a key, and there's no key in the lock, so before it was just, the key was in the lock. So
Okay,
I put the key in a lockbox, and now the key's not in the lock.
so and does the fire department have access to the lockbox? Because that was a concern originally in the points that the state fire marshal came up with.
Yep,
Okay, so that's secure. The fire alarm system needs to be interconnected and provide coverage throughout the building. And that's something that is underway, or what's the status of that?
well, so the way it works now is I hire a firm that does the existing conditions. I hire an architect to figure out from the existing conditions what we need to get to the proposed conditions. Then that gets submitted to the state fire marshal. They issue any permits and approve whatever plan there is. Then after that's all set, the contractors get contracted to do the work executing that. They submit their own plans to the state fire marshal.
Yep.
And then when all of that's done, it's re-inspected and approved by the state fire marshal.
Okay.
So it's a really long process, and we're already working on getting the existing conditions, but there's a lot of steps and there's a lot of busy contractors in the series that
Yep.
needs to happen.
Yep. So the fire alarm system, will that include smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors? And,
There are carbon monoxide and smoke detectors in every single unit. There always have been. I'm unclear why the fire marshal didn't see them, because they're on the ceiling of all the units. Plus, I have additional carbon monoxide monitors in all of the units that have a fireplace, because I put them lower because, as a scientist myself, I know that carbon monoxide, can be detected better at a lower level. So we had double coverage everywhere. Plus, the existing unit that were added, we've already had the smoke detector, carbon monoxide, and fire plan approved through the state fire marshal through that permitting process.
So is
They've
that-
already reviewed it and approved it.
Was that the up in the barn, the existing approval, and what units are you referring to?
Everything I'm talking about today is in the main
The
building.
main building, okay. All right, so they are saying those things need to be done, great. We know that fire sprinkler system needs to be maintained, reviewed, and proven to be able to cover the living spaces and egress ways out of the building. So that's one of your, kind of on your to-do list, is to expand that system.
Again, that has to go through that whole process.
Yep,
There's one egress stairwell that doesn't have a sprinkler. In the entire building, that's the only place without coverage.
okay.
But regardless, we are following through and we're having all of those plans done, submitted to the state so they can see that. But it's literally one hallway.
Oh, that's one hallway where people could get stuck, so I know that you've got a lot going on there, but, for the person that gets, for some reason has to use that, it's not a good deal, so I'm glad that you are addressing that. Parking spaces, need to be improved, this is still from our fire chief, to allow access to the building by fire apparatus, so I guess you're working on that?
The parking was approved at the last site plan review and it hasn't changed at all, not one bit. No
Okay.
changes at all.
Okay,
It's
well-
already.
Right now, it's not adequate, because they say they can't get their, equipment to the building because of the way the parking's arranged. So, I think that you need to think about how to create a fire lane there that nobody parks in.
I'll work with the architect to ensure we meet the requirements.
Well, maybe you wanna engage our fire chief, because he wants to be able to get his fire truck in there. It's not an architectural thing, it's a site plan thing, so it's how your parking lot is arranged, so that, he's got, so he can get his truck in there, he'll do whatever he needs to do in terms of addressing, the fire emergency, and then get the truck out, so. That is like, I think, more of a local operations thing, and the architect focus on the building itself, okay? Clear signage installed to provide direction for emergency responders to the appropriate units. You said you wanted to wait to see if these 2 units were gonna be, approved. It seems like, why wouldn't you just go ahead and put numbers or however for the other units, and the 2 ones that are under consideration could be number 17 and 18, and just get your 1 through 16 all labeled and clearly signed.
The reason is, what he wants exterior signage. And exterior signage is going to be a sign that shows where each unit is from the outside, so when they pull in, they know where to go.
Yep,
Part of doing that, we want to make sure that the numbering makes sense. So as part of this process, we may be renumbering units so that they make more sense for both our guests, but also for the fire department. So it seems to me that it makes sense to make sure that it's approved before I spend, a couple $1,000s on some really nice signs so that we show where the numbers are.
well, I mean, right now, your people are unprotected because our people don't know how to get to address fire safety issues when called to do so. So I think you're a very smart person, you can figure out a numbering system that maybe it's one building is A, the other is B, and, these last 2 units are given the last 2 numbers. I don't see why you're dragging your feet on that, and it really, you did say that once this is approved, that you should be able to get your signage done pretty quickly, so.
I've provided Aaron with information so he knows where all the stuff is. I've posted temporary signage, like, why would I spend a couple $1,000s if I don't know if it's gonna be approved?
Because we have people there that our emergency responders can't find them because they don't know where the units are. and Aaron might not be on every call. So the fact that one person knows isn't good enough. We need to have, for any volunteer that pulls into, respond to an emergency at your building, that they know where to go.
I'm saying there's already a temporary sign. I
Okay.
provided that here in my,
Well, they want it to be clear signage, and, you know, for me, I'm not gonna, it's up to our fire chief to say what's clear and what's not clear. And I don't know if he's seen your temporary signage, so that was, has he seen it?
yes, he's had it for 6 months.
Well, I
But
don't
I'm
think it's,
waiting to do the permanent signage before, once this was approved, so I can do the numbering and I can make it real clear. I mean, good signage costs money. It's not one of these things where you just flippantly go out and do it.
well, I think you're not listening to what our fire chief is saying, and, if that's something that, you know, why not just go ahead and get those people, like, you know, get everybody identified, and you can figure out how to finesse the last 2 units, with whatever you're gonna call them. So we've already got the Lyme Fire Department is gonna work closely with the State Fire Marshal's office, they point that out, and then our fire chief said at the end, I just hope that in the future, the applicant will provide plans and proposals prior to construction. So, that is the end of the letter that we received from them. So, just wanted to share that with you. I, for one, am happy that you haven't occupied those 2 units, and I, for one, have been very hesitant to think about giving you approval to go ahead and occupy those units until these safety measures are addressed and approved by the state fire marshal. So that is my personal feeling. And so I'll just end there, and I didn't know if other people who were here last time wanted to give Warren any more information about what went on, or, you know, anything that I missed from the last meeting, just to be able to communicate what our thinking was while you weren't here, and catch you up to where we left. Any other comments, or?
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Yep,
I think for me, I think you covered it.
nothing else, okay.
I think you covered it, yeah.
Okay. So I had some questions for you, based on, you know, based on what you've submitted, and one of the things I think we need to have submitted to us, I mean, just for more information, is that parking plan, that you could draw up yourself. You don't need an architect, showing where everyone's gonna park and where the fire lane's gonna be, and to run that by our fire chief, so that, that one point that he brought up is addressed.
I did, he approved it last time. He approved the exact plan. This exact one, he made 0 changes, he approved it.
Well, I'm kind of confused then as to why he would have brought that up again, honestly. Because, I mean, he's got other things to do than make longer lists when he doesn't need to. So, I'm sorry that he's not here to speak to you directly, but we do have this written comment. And, so, the driveway plan from the last one is what you are thinking is going to be adequate? And does it show a fire lane and place for fire trucks to pull in and have access to your building?
There was no request to show a fire lane, it was approved as is, and there are all of the clearances required by the state.
Okay, well, I'm talking about what we need to do under our site plan review is to make sure that our emergency responders can get in and out of your property, and can get to your property and do their job to, you know, fight a fire, if that's why they're being called. So could you just use the plan that you had from the last time when we looked at the barn, and show us where the assigned places are for people, or the number of spaces that people would be using and where the fire truck will be coming in and how.
Already, you have that.
Well,
you
I
have
would
that
like you to
printed
show
out.
me where the fire truck is, and actually, I didn't happen to bring it today, so I don't have it in front of me, but I would feel better if you could mark that up, and I wouldn't, and I could, you could then share it with Aaron and go, is this okay? Because where he's brought that up, and it's a matter of a plan, then, is this it?
Does this help with it?
That was helpful, because I didn't know. Thank you.
And I also think that the fire chief had some issues with being able to get a truck down to the small house and the barn. That those were too narrow.
Okay, well, I'm seeing parking, and are those 3 spaces that are there by the generator? Like right in front of the building? There's a handicap space and then 3 others. Can you see, if you can't see this? This is, can we all see it?
Even these
very
3
blurry,
right
but
here.
yeah.
So Lauren, this is what you submitted.
Okay,
And it looks like there's 3 spaces that are stacked. Is that underneath the deck? Right
no,
between the dumpster, well, there's lights that say decks exterior lighting. And then there are 3 parking spaces there.
sense is, what he wanted is, he didn't want people parking behind the blue house. And in the parking plan, there's no parking there. So the only difference is, I didn't realize it was an issue before, and people would park behind there, and I didn't manage it. But since he's mentioned that there's been an issue, I don't allow cars to park there. So people are following the plan. The plan is what's approved, and the plan provides, I mean, you could fit a fire truck going in both directions by one another through the tightest spot. I mean, it's not even close. The difference is, I don't have cars parked in back anymore, because I told them, I didn't realize it was an issue. I told them it was an issue, they stopped doing it.
So when you say the blue house, that's over by your barn, which used to be a barn, is that the blue house?
Now, the blue house is the main in building.
It's the main in building, okay, great. And so we have the tiny house there, but we do have, like, the handicap parking spaces in front needs to be close. But there are 3 spaces that are between the house and the dumpster and the generator.
No, they're not.
Well, that's what your plan shows, so I guess,
3 spaces in front of the house is right next to the generator.
is there a way to, like, put it right up to the owl so we can just say,
I don't know if there's, how close it's gonna be before it blurs out.
Could you
Yeah, it's just gonna,
snap a picture of it and put it up on your screen, David?
yeah, I could probably,
I mean, my way of thinking, I don't think a fire truck can go in and turn around in that area.
Oh, I see. Those parking spots are in the garage.
Okay, so they're in a garage, okay, fine, because thank you. So that is the building, because they're deck lights that are around. Okay, that's helpful. I mean, thinking about
I mean,
this,
look, if you measure that, look at how big those distances are. I mean, those are huge distances.
well, usually what you do is you get somebody who, well, you could probably do this, can show that the fire truck can actually turn around as, when you have the array of parking spaces there. But you know what, I can't judge that. We have a fire chief that needs to judge that, and, so I'm sorry that if there's misunderstanding between you, about this, but it's an outstanding issue for me, because it was on the list that was brought to us 2 weeks ago.
I
So,
can ask Aaron for more specific information.
right,
I think that there was, an outbuilding that now has apartments in it or housing in it, and the drop-off
mhm,
is too steep for the emergency vehicles. Like, the truck is really long, and when the front wheels go over the edge,
so bottoms out.
it bottoms out, and
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, I haven't been out there for a couple of years, so I'm not quite sure
Mhm.
where things are, but I thought that was what Aaron brought up.
Did he bring it up on the way to the barn here?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, I think that's what.
I think that's what it
he was
is.
speaking of,
So it's, so this is not,
Right.
was not an issue for
No,
Aaron?
this is an issue here in this list, and this was brought up when we were verbally. It's not, I would not
Okay.
say this one is on the list. Parking spaces improved to cover the occupancy of the building to allow access to the building by fire apparatus. So, I don't know if these ones that are up, closer, it seems like these can't possibly be the ones that are perpendicular to the driveway and, before you get to the blue house, those would be totally out of the way. I guess I'm questioning whether or not the ones that are kind of in the turnaround, if they're in his way, so that he can't get in and out, I don't know. So, okay, so those are, that just needs to be clarified, but is for me, a safety concern that needs to be addressed. So, here's a question, I mean, I think you were going to jump right on your signage, because I think that that is important for your people as well as the responders to have clear direction. As soon as we render a decision, then you'll go ahead and get your signs made up, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because that seemed to be right in your, something early in your thing here. So I had some questions. So what is the inspection testing for the fire pumps? And that's kind of related to point 7 in your long list. And you say, construction and permit will be submitted afterward, fire pump. Yeah, so there's an NFPA, fire pumps will be inspected, tested, and maintained in accordance with NFPA 25. So how often are those tests done? Do you know?
We contract with Vermont Life Safety and they do whatever they do to keep us in compliance.
And you get reports?
They give us a sticker that says we passed.
Uh-huh. Okay, so, and you've been doing that all along?
The contract was with someone else. I switched over to Vermont Life Safety a couple years ago.
Okay, so how often do you pay them to come and do the testing?
They are on an annual contract.
So that's annually, okay. And same with the inspection testing for the fire alarm panel?
Yes,
Okay, so, and they do it also?
correct.
Okay. So I had a question about number 14, which the alarm panel protected the building, appeared to be suffering from nuisance alarms as evidenced by documentation provided by the town of Lyme, indicating multiple false alarm calls as well as a sticky note on the panel. And it should have an approved maintenance and testing program, and then you are responsible for doing that? So,
Let me give an update on that. So
Okay.
I think the problem is there's not context in this, and since I wasn't here when the fire marshal was here, I couldn't provide context. So there's a sticky note on it from when the prior owner had it, and I just never took the sticky note off, all right?
yep,
I'm sorry, I didn't take the sticky note off.
Yep.
So about 2 years ago, we were having false alarms, and every time the electricity went out, it would buzz. It was super annoying. So I called Vermont Life Safety and I said, just come and do an overhaul of the panel. So they reconnected it. They have now They changed, instead of using a phone line, they went to an internet line. They did all of this update. It was, a few $1,000s to update the whole panel. And since that's happened, it's been like more than 2 years. We haven't had a single false alarm, like a single nuisance alarm. Every alarm we've had has been legit. We've had smoke, like there's been people burnt a piece of toast. Yeah, the fire alarm, the fire department gets called. It stinks that they get called, but it's an automatic thing that as soon as it detects it, the alarm system calls the fire department and then they call me. So if it's someone that burnt a piece of toast, including me, the fire department gets the call. Then I have to call the fire department and say, hey, don't come out, I burnt a piece of toast. So to be honest, the system has been working great. We haven't had a single false alarm in 2 years. So that's why it's a little bit frustrating for me, because I invested in this system. It's a little bit older, but I invested in it. It's working great. There's been no, it's maintained. We have this contract. Everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. But yes, the fire department gets a call a couple times when people burn toast. So we've talked about, whether in the kitchen there's a smoke detector rather than a heat sensor. And we talked about, we were planning on, having them do whatever they need to do to change that out. And that one thing would solve all this problem. So it's a bit frustrating for me, because we're going to put in a $100,000 fire alarm system when the one I have works perfect. Like it zero problems at all. So, I feel like I'm getting defensive, and I'm a pretty easygoing person.
Right.
But this is really hard for me because it's not an unsafe place, and a lot of these things taken out of context make it sound like I'm just endangering people, when that's not the case at all. We have a really nice property. We take really good care of it. We have all of these systems. We have duplicate systems where things are dangerous. And right now, our residents, including my family, we are safe here. We are, according to the 1996 B&B code, we were totally compliant.
Okay.
The reason they have these things is with the change of use, you change the code. So I just want to emphasize that I'm a real person, I'm a real business owner. We're treating people well, we have a nice property, we're keeping people safe, it's in our best interest, and we really want to continue that. We have no reason to try and make people unsafe.
I got that. I know you're not doing it. My concern was there are a number of things that were kind of not up to code with NFPA, and that it was assigned to you to fix it. And it seems like the fire alarm system should be like one of those professional companies should be in charge of that. So that was my question, and the schedule of completion being out to December 2027. I mean, that's 2.5 years, and that doesn't seem right to me. That I agree with the fire chief, and that is one of those things that should be taken care of, not 2.5 years from now. So that's my comment, and I was just, why are you dealing with that and not one of these, Vermont Fire Safety or other, design professionals?
Anything that has to deal with the fire system or the alarm system is done by Vermont Life Safety. But the reason I have me on there is a point person to coordinate that all of the stuff gets done. But I'm not designing fire systems. Vermont Life Safety is, and they already met with the fire marshal, and they already met with the fire chief. So
All right.
They are the contractor.
So that you're coordinating, but you're not actually evaluating the system and designing the new system, or,
No.
Okay, all right, so that's just a
I'm
typo.
happy to have things go as quickly as I can, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to promise a date and not be able to deliver when all of this thing happens in series. So there are so many steps along the way, there's so many contractors, and it's so hard to get contractors that by the time you go through the whole series,
I'm just being honest, that might be the fastest I can possibly do it. I'll work as fast as I can, but I don't wanna promise that I'm gonna get it done and then not, and then look like a bad person for not being able to deliver when it's totally out of my control. It involves, Vermont Life Safety involves electricians, it involves carpenters, it involves permits, it involves architects, it involves existing conditions documentation. There's just a lot of moving parts and a lot of people involved. Now, I want to get it done as fast as possible, but I also want to follow through. And when I say I'm going to get something done by a day, I want to honestly be able to do that.
Okay, just a couple more questions. I thought it was a little sloppy of you. Page 2 and page 4 have cut and paste answers that were just taken from something else. And, in terms of your response, because this is going to be a kind of a legal document that's basis, it's a conditions of our approval, I think that should be updated. And you
Can you explain to me how my response doesn't meet the requirements that I know what to change it to?
Because you're talking about CO2 detectors instead of other carbon monoxide detectors. It's kind of like a cut and paste typo. You just didn't talk about the right things that were supposed to be replaced in that item.
There already are carbon monoxide and smoke detectors in every unit.
Okay, I'm just saying, please look at your responses and make sure that they're pertinent to the item that you're discussing. And I also wondered if I don't even know how to say this, the Scotian ring cover plates, number 3. Discussion rings. Well, whatever they are, why can't items 24, 25, and 26 be moved up to December 2026? And
Because you can't touch any of the systems until they're approved. So you have to do the existing conditions, you have to do the architect, you have to do the permit, you have to do the electrical, you have to do the fire safety, and then it gets done, and then it gets inspected by the state fire marshal, and then it gets approved. So.
okay, I'm just trying to make it so you have a more expeditious completion, and wondering why, okay, so that's all. So today, July 24th, storage items were supposed to be removed away from the fire pump. Did that get done?
Yes.
Okay. And then next week, the sprinkler obstruction will be removed according to your schedule?
All done.
Okay. So you've said a lot of these things are done. It would be helpful for us to have pictures to show that they're done and be able to put them in your file if we could, just because this is what we're working with in terms of guaranteeing that we have a structure that's safe enough to allow 2 more units. So that would be helpful. And if you could, like, however you communicate them, label them so that we know that it's addressing something in item 15 or item 12, that would be helpful to be able to match that up.
I'm happy to send photos. I would say though, I spent about 16 hours writing that document.
Yep.
And I feel like I worked really hard to make sure that I did the best I could. I looked at the code. I don't feel like I need to rewrite that.
Well, you know what, when you have a response that doesn't address the item, I think you should rewrite it. So, I'm not saying rewrite it,
Tell me
but
which ones didn't address.
I just noted on page 2 and 4, there were cut and paste answers that should not include CO2 devices. So I don't know if they were carbon monoxide and something else, but, because this is what we're going with. I appreciate all the work you put into it, and it's a huge amount. So, having pictures, and you've got a lot of things that you say have been done, so if you could provide pictures so that we can check off, oh, that's been done, that would be awesome. I was also interested in, and I guess 8 and 9 were things that are being completed. You also, said that there was a structural analysis for the egress stairway, and if you could provide us with a copy of that, that would be good.
Okay.
Number 15, provide evidence that this has occurred. You said it's completed, it's a fire alarm panel, so, and then it also talks about the maintenance. If you could tell us what the maintenance, and testing program is. It's supposed to have an approved maintenance and testing program, and just to know who approved it, because you say that item 15 is completed. Number 18, give us pictures to confirm that there's nothing in this stairwell. Same with the egress pathways on 19, and number 20, completed handrails, pictures of that would be good. If item number 20.
I just wanna make sure that that the right people are involved in it. These are all things that are part of the fire marshal inspection. So I kind of feel like we should let the fire marshal do their job, because this is all stuff that's provided by them. As long as they approve the permits and they approve everything, like, why am I submitting it 2 places? Why can't
Lauren,
we let the professionals?
Okay, my job is, assuring that there's a safe place for people to live, and, that's part of my job. So regrettably, these 35 or 36 points have become part of my job. And part of my job is knowing that these things are gonna be done. And you've said that they are done, and they go away if we see that they're done, so that's wonderful, okay? So that's why I'm sitting here spending a lot of my time reviewing your 36 points and your responses. I'm sorry, I have to do it as well. I'm wondering for number 22, your stair treads have been fixed, but if those are fixed, why isn't number 23 fixed? So there's stair treads within the egress. So I don't know why that one's gonna, if 22 is completed, stair treads, number 23 is to be completed the end of August, but why wasn't that done at the same time? 27, like to see a
Every
pic.
time I get the contractor, I had the contractor doing the work. The contractor is building a house and he doesn't have time, so I'm working on it. I've got the material sitting in the yard and it's ready to go.
Okay.
I'm going as fast as I can. I feel like I'm being treated like a naughty kid when I'm really diligently doing all this stuff.
Okay, well, you've been pushing us to approve your project, okay? And we don't have the information that we need to make sure that this is a safe place for people to live, okay? So, we're trying to expedite this as well. Picture of the ventilation hoods would be good, the wire not resting on the pipe, your driveway signs, the garage door. So, a lot of those things you said were done, just send us pictures, know what they are, and if you're already sending them to the state fire marshal, fine, just CC David so we can have them in the file for us.
The state fire marshal doesn't want like pictures here and there. They want you to have a plan, execute the plan, to do the permits, submit the permits, and do it all. Like, they're not there to babysit us. They're there to make sure that the plans are executed. They want the plans. If I'm just dinging them with all of these little things all the time, they're just gonna get frustrated and not wanna work with me. If we just follow the normal process.
You told me that you were giving them all this information to show that you had finished it, so I was trying to say, well, then just CC us on that when you do that. If that's not the case, great. You're gonna have to, I would feel better if we had this list, when you say it's completed, I wanna know it's completed, and maybe what we need to do is visit your property with our fire chief and go through and see if these things have been completed, and we can take pictures, if that would work better for you.
the way it works is after a state fire marshal inspection, they give you a list of things to do immediately, things to
Got it,
have in 30 days, and things like 60 or 90 days.
got it.
And the ones out are plans to have these things done. So I'm following through with that. I'm doing everything the state fire marshal wants. I'm working to get all those things done. And I feel like that's the requirement for the state. So why should I have additional documentation requirements in addition to what the state requires when the state's the building official?
My view on this is that we need to approve your expansion into a safe situation, according to our state fire codes. I do not believe that we have a safe situation. We've got a list of things that our own fire chief has provided to us. And so I want to know that those things are done.
The fire chief has said, he stated that he has no concerns with having this committee approve the site plan review. Is that not correct?
They're not opposed to the proposed expansion of the use. However, the fire department does request the following. The board acknowledges the apartment is already constructed and has been occupied. And for me, I would say that if that were the case, that those people should vacate the premises and should not be occupied because you do not have approval for that. Expansion into the basement, they will just want a manufacturer's cut sheet for that window, okay? So I don't think that any of this is too tough for you. You've got it into a schedule. All I wanna be sure of is that all this stuff gets done, because your list and your affirmation that things have been completed are the basis of my feeling that things are safe to approve your request, okay? So there's a lot to keep track of for you, and there's a lot to keep track of for us.
Well, is there a reason why we don't go with what the fire marshal has asked?
We are
The
going
fire
with what
marshal
we were
has
going.
asked for us to do specific things, and they've
Yep.
given us, they say, it's safe enough to have everyone continue being in these units, get these things, get a plan and get these things done. And
Yep.
that's what I'm doing. So why can't we why can't we go by what the state fire marshal wants?
I am totally in line with what the state fire marshal wants. That's exactly what, but regrettably, that's part of your condition of approval is like doing all that stuff, okay? Because it's not safe now to allow 2 more units to be occupied. So that's all. When this stuff gets done, I'm happy to have you occupy, have those other 2 units occupied. And, the other thing that's out there is your septic. So those units should not be occupied until the septic system is installed. So, yeah, completion of this stuff and having your septic done and addressing what what our local fire chief has said makes me, then I'm happy to have you occupy those 2 new units.
So Vicky, can I sum up what I think I heard you say, which is there's a list of criteria that the fire chief put together that we would want to see addressed?
Well, he said he's gonna address it.
Right, but I mean, how does he, I think the question I'm getting to is, how does he get approval from us? And we're generally inclined to do it, but we wanna see certain things done, and so I'm sort of, what's our list of things that need to be done? There's the letter from the fire chief
Yep.
that lists those things that need to be addressed in a good way. I don't
Yep.
know that they have,
Right.
there are also the other items in that much longer note, which I think have immediate deadlines on them, that this
Yep.
should be done, this should be done, this should be done. And then there's a plan for a broad revamp of the fire alarms and the smoke alarms and all.
Yep.
And then there's a plan for these other things. So I think, if I'm right, tell me if I'm right,
No, yes, I'm
that
good.
there's a set of immediate things
Yep,
that,
which are
that
addressed
we
by
have,
this list.
which we've gone through that list.
Mhm.
If Warren can satisfy us that those are complete, are we then, are there any other impediments, any other things standing in the way of us giving an approval?
I just wanna, for me, every one of these things, we need to have documentation that have been done, and you can do that by taking pictures and noting that. And, I don't believe that these things should be undone when we give an approval for people to move into those 2 new units.
That they should be.
We give him
We give them approval,
But-
they should be complete. When,
This list needs to be addressed, and whatever we end up with from our fire chief needs to be addressed, and the septic needs to be installed before people move into those 2 new units. That's how I see it. And I'm really happy that nobody is occupying them now.
Those are significantly stricter than the state fire marshal, because the state fire marshal says the building is safe enough as long as you have a plan and you're executing the plan. So to not allow occupancy is orders of magnitude more strict than the fire marshal.
Well, Lauren, I am one person who has shared thoughts. I'm one person on this board, and my other fellow board members may not feel the same way. So I'm just putting it out there that that's how I feel. I'm not speaking for the board.
so, I'd like to get more specific about, I mean, that long list has, I think you said 37 items on it.
Yep.
Some of them are broad plans, things that need a plan to get them done.
Mhm.
Is it possible to come up with a list of the things that we would ask that be fixed, immediate things that we would ask to be fixed? And then be prepared to go. So the fire chief's list, and
Being
then,
prepared to go means that you could occupy those 2 units.
well, that we would give approval, and then, that we would give approval. I mean, I think that's, once we give approval, I think,
Well, no, we can give approval saying you can't occupy those things, fine, you can do that is when you get your septic in and when you've finished a list of things that the state fire marshal has identified and our fire chief.
but,
He gets his approval, you just can't occupy, that's,
okay, all right, and would that include the revamp of the fire alarm system that might take 12 months? Would,
for me,
Mhm.
why would we let more people live there when it's unsafe? I mean,
Okay.
that's how I feel. You may not feel that way, because you may say, oh, it's safe enough,
Mhm.
but, I mean, I don't feel that way, and that's fine. You guys could all feel like that's safe enough. So, you know, that's why we have lots of people on boards, and, I don't know how Rich feels, and I don't know how Tim feels, but, yeah. And this, I mean, I'd almost be more, I mean, without the pictures, I would almost be more comfortable with saying these things aren't completed, because in many cases, there are 3 or 4 items in each one of these points.
Mhm.
And, you know, and their completion, you know, so we take a picture and, oh, this is all cleaned up, but what's the testing protocol, and where's the structural analysis, those kinds of things. You know, so I don't know, I'm uncomfortable saying that those things are completed without having that backup documentation, and almost feel like we should say these aren't completed
Mhm.
until, because for us, they're not completed until we're satisfied that they've been done, and the fire marshal has said, this is great. So
So we have the fire marshal agreeing to monitor the situation.
He's gonna review the plans,
Yep,
review the permitting,
yep.
and he's gonna
And
do
do
inspections.
inspections, right, right.
To correct existing violations.
And I
So-
think the criteria was that, there has to be a plan to get things done in a certain amount of time. And that was what was precluding occupancy.
Well, the certain amount of time, I mean, that's for having plans in 90 days, which, are the architectural plans gonna be done in 90 days, so we can have a fire
But let's
suppression system? I mean, I don't know.
stick with,
Yeah.
you know, if substantial progress has been made and the things that have been asserted to be done, he just, you know, gives us a duplicate of the documentation that he would be sharing with the fire marshal.
Mhm.
And that we can see that significant progress has been made, and if there's anything lingering that we think is really a safety issue, because, I mean, Warren has said that there is a fire alarm system in there that is working and is adequate to the purpose for now. I mean, it seems like there's a path forward for approval and then leaving a lot of stuff, the verified part, to the state, who has the expertise and gets us out of the loop and gives Lauren some certainty about which master he has to please, as opposed to, you know, us and the state. I mean, I think if the state is satisfied, we would be satisfied.
And our fire chief needs to be satisfied.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have to go into all the decision-making ourselves on every fine point. If the things that he says are done or in progress, we have the documentation come, but that's the next, we could see some of that, we would have more confidence in the whole process. And some information from what the state is saying to Lauren.
Okay, so right now, Lauren's gonna get free plan review, oversight during the permitting,
Yeah.
and free inspections.
Yeah,
So what happens if the state fire marshal's office gets cut? And we don't have them anymore to rely on to do all that? Are we gonna then, make Warren hire somebody who would, have that expertise and be able to do that kind of plan review and inspection?
well, I mean, what is the legal process? What are the provisions in the law for doing that kind of thing?
Well, we are in a position to, I mean, we're in a position to assure that we have safety at that
Sure.
location, and I hate to make it sound like it's unsafe, and I wouldn't have called it unsafe, but I have this list of 37 items that say to me that it's not as safe as it should be, and, so, I feel like this stuff, under this circumstance, needs to be part of our conditional approval, but if
So is-
circumstances change,
Is conditional approval an option for us?
yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
if we set a condition, if we give them conditional approval, what is the timeframe for review?
Well, for me, I'm happy, I mean, our fire chief was not comfortable with improvements finishing up in 2.5 years. So I don't know what would make him feel better. Is it a year and a half? I just don't know. So, I would wanna know what that is, and maybe Lauren could get it done even sooner than that.
I think
So-
he's trying to
Yeah, he's-
under-promise and overperform,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, can we give conditional approval and review in 6 months what progress has been made? Is that a process that's available to the board?
Well, I'd rather give him some certainty for him to know that he does these things and he can expand and occupy those 2 units.
Right, okay,
So, I mean, what are you gonna do about the septic system that's at capacity right now?
right.
I mean, is that,
The contractor's starting on it in 6 days.
oh, that's
Oh,
excellent.
that's great, lucky you.
Well, that's good, because that would be like, that,
I don't think that's true, because I was asked by your designer to reapprove the plans, and I have not. So as far as I know, the state has not approved those plans.
Well, maybe he's starting on the barn first. The excavation company is starting on the 30th, and they're installing both septic systems. So if the state hasn't approved the one for the main inn, then he'll start at the barn. But he will actively be on site working towards it daily, starting on July 30th.
Well, that is good news.
And it is I've looked at the changes and I have no problems, I will be signing off on it. Again, I've been out for 2 days and just
Yep.
trying to catch up.
Okay, well, you know, that makes me feel good.
Yeah,
You know, we have, what, so 75 days, till we have to, quote, make a decision.
okay.
But, I mean, I want to get the signs up. And, you know, so that when our guys go to respond to a call, that
Yep,
they know
no,
which
I
unit to go to.
understand. Yeah, no, I-
And, you know, Warren has conditioned that so that, you know, he needs an approval before he will do that.
Can I make a proposal? The state fire marshal provided the report, and they gave the immediate stuff, the 30-day stuff, and the 60-day stuff. That this group here approves it, but at any point in time, the state fire marshal or the fire chief determine that we're not adequately making progress on any of those, the approval is immediately revoked. And that way, this is entirely between, you know, following the normal state fire marshal process between a, you know, business and the state and the town.
I don't know how we would get notified that there was an issue.
And I don't know how they have they can't like determine that a site plan is null and void. I mean, that's.
All they would have to do is they would say, town of Lyme, the home on the Connecticut is not making adequate progress toward the corrections plan. This happens, apartments is my business. We've got, you know, we manage apartments in Vermont, New Hampshire. We deal with the state fire marshal all the time, and you just do what you need to do with the state fire marshal, and you work with them until the stuff gets done, and then they close it out. And what happens is, you know, you get an inspection 6 months from now, and then they find something else, and so they open up something else, so you do something else. So it's, by the time you actually finish it, these things can get extended years and years because they find something new almost every time they come. So to say, you know, to make the state fire marshal happy on every single thing, that's tough. You know, for example, on one of our properties down south, the state fire marshal's been out there, you know, 4 times, and each time, oh, well, there's a GFI wasn't working. All right, well, I have to, you know, get a permit, go through the whole process, then he comes back out. So this system is already set up to work the way it's working, where it's just directly between me and the state fire marshal, and the state fire marshal coordinates with the fire department. That's just the way it works everywhere else. I'm just hoping we can make it work here.
I'm not gonna put words in Vicky's mouth. I'm gonna say.
No, you talk about what you want to say.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
I
right.
think
I'm gonna say what I
everybody
say.
needs to say what they need to say.
And I see that we are collecting a list of those immediate tasks, the things that the fire chief mentioned, that he needs to be comfortable with some kind of resolution to them.
Yep.
And then, the list of the immediate things in the fire marshal's report, many of which may be done. And if we think there's a good resolution to those immediate things, fire marshal and the immediate from the 37, and knowing that there's likely going to be a septic system that's icing on the cake, is that good enough for us to have a conditional approval to say, the critical things are done, and then, no, that wouldn't be conditional, no, it would just be an approval. The critical things are done, septic is on the way, and then,
But, and so he can just move people in before the septic is done and before these other things are done?
well, we can, that could be a condition to say the septic's gotta be complete, and that the fire marshal is content with the remainder of the plan. That gets us out of the day-to-day stuff.
Well, I hate to be like a cynic, but Warren could just say, I don't have the cash to do this, folks, and then we've got possibly 2 tenants who are living in a situation and there isn't a clear way to get all this stuff fixed. And what are we gonna do, displace them? It's not, you know, that's not fair. And, you know, I wonder if any of those people, you know, have renter's insurance and their insurance company saw this list.
They're not renters,
Oh,
not tenants. The hotel.
if any of your guests who have probably all of their worldly belongings with them in your hotel, don't have insurance for their stuff,
These are travel nurses, they bring a lot of stuff. They stay here for 3 months, they stay here for a few more months if they get their contract extended.
right, it's their
Or they go-
home, come on, you know, you call it home on the Connecticut, it's their home. I don't wanna argue about the use, but, you know, I like some sort of resolution. I feel like right now, somebody needs to draft up findings of fact, which is gonna be extensive, and also an approval that we would entertain, but I don't think we're sitting here, we're ready to do that now. And I would like more clarity about the tolerance for our fire chief in terms of schedule, and whether or not this schedule could be expedited, and what is reasonable in terms of the fire chief's view. So, Evie, what do you think?
I'm trying to find some way to be sufficiently concrete and sufficiently safe, so that, we all are starting from the same spot and the same understanding of where we are. And it seems to me that when the septic is done and we have an updated report from the fire marshal from whatever his inspection is, that would be enough for us to approve occupancy.
David Kahn, do you have any
I'm
thoughts?
a little confused about one point. We had Aaron come to the select board and say, I want you guys to go to the fire marshal and ask them to be the party in
Right,
charge.
yep.
So when he does that, doesn't he, it seems funny for him to then still be in the mix and say, oh, but I want them to be running the show, but then I'm not happy with this and I'm not happy with that, or I have some additional.
So if NFPA doesn't cover the driveway and parking situation for
I just
fire
don't know, I'm
access-
just asking.
Yeah, I mean, that is, there was something in here about fire access, I believe.
And it's probably the case that if we ask Aaron, Aaron will say, no, if the fire marshal's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, number 34, vehicles were observed to be parked within fire apparatus access road serving the building, which does not meet NFPA 18. Blah, blah, blah. Fire department access and fire apparatus access roads shall be provided and maintained in accordance with section 18.2, and the required width of a fire apparatus access road shall not be obstructed in any manner, including by parking of vehicles. Where required by AHJ, approved signs, approved roadways, surface markings, or other approved notices shall be provided and maintained to prohibit the obstruction thereof above. So that's supposedly completed, and, you know, this is state fire marshal, this is not just Aaron.
Right, and I think, David, the other reason that the fire chief asked for the state fire marshal to come in is the state fire marshal does have the capacity to do some kinds of structural analysis, some kinds of architectural approvals to say that, you know, an architect could clearly do this, but the state fire marshal can also
So
do this.
deeper
And so that would be because the state fire marshal's already involved, if he could come in and just say, oh, this is okay now, that gets it done, and, you know, saves
But in
more
terms
than
of
a bunch
what
of
we
money.
need, do we need sign off from the state fire marshal? Do we need sign off from the state fire marshal and Aaron?
Well, right there, there's consistency about, but Warren has said that those things have been completed. So what we need to do is make sure that Aaron can go and say, yes, that's fine.
He already has.
Okay.
He already went and he verified all of the immediate items.
Okay, well, but he needs to
No,
tell us.
no, 2 weeks ago, he was not fine because he gave us this list. So,
And the only thing not completed, why are you frustrated with me? He came and he confirmed that everything on that list was done. The only clarifying thing is he wanted to make sure that we met the rules for access for fire engines.
When did that happen, Lauren?
He went with Mike Hensley and with the fire chief and the Vermont Life Safety guy, and then afterward he had a call with the electrician and he met with the carpenter. They all went together and confirmed that all of the immediate things.
Was that in the last 2 weeks?
No, it was maybe.
Okay, so then part of the problem here is that we're getting inconsistent stories from you and from Aaron, and that may just be a misunderstanding, or it may be that but there's some, and that's, I think that's the whole, that's 90% of the rub here, is that what Aaron is telling us is not the same as what you're telling us, and I'm happy to, it is quite possible, I'm happy to believe that you're correct and he's mistaken or he's misremembering, but from our perspective, we gotta get those ducks in a row before we sign off on this, I think.
We need
Like,
one
the
answer.
last time we met here, Aaron came in here and told us, hey, I think there's people living in these units. And that was upsetting to us, as you could, I'm sure you would understand that if that were the fact, that would be upsetting to us as a board. You're telling us that's absolutely not the case. I'm inclined to believe you on that, but I wanna get that sorted out, because we're getting two different stories we're getting one story from Aaron and one story from you. So I'd like to find a way to get everybody together in the same room and get that hashed out, or, you understand, I'm very inclined to believe you, and I understand you're trying to do something that I think is valuable here. I think is valuable for the town of Lyme, I think it's valuable for the Upper Valley, and I'm more sympathetic to your frustration I could not be. I completely get it. You're getting different people telling you different stuff, and you're trying to do all this different stuff, and you're getting different requirements imposed on you by different people. But from our perspective, if we have our fire chief telling us A and you're telling us B, we gotta sort that out before we can sign off on this. Hopefully that, you can appreciate that, I think, right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, you know, at the next board meeting, I can ask Aaron to attend, I don't think he'll have a problem with that. And if you're here, Aaron's here, we can then hash those things out and get them straightened out. And I think instead of a he said, she said type thing, we can, you know.
Would it be acceptable for Warren to meet independently with Aaron and then have them issue a joint statement?
Yeah, totally, at least from my perspective, in fact, that might be easier than having to wait 2 weeks and have another meeting, and then we you know, we're all sitting here hashing this stuff out. If you want to, and you have the capacity to, meet with Aaron and go through the list with him, and then have Aaron and you reach out to us and say, we sorted it out, here's the story, that's awesome. That takes us out of the loop, and which I'm very happy about. And I'm sorry about that. You know, I'm sorry that your perception of what's going on here and what Aaron has told us last time don't line up perfectly in a couple of instances, but maybe that's something that just happens with these kind of things.
Thank you, David. Matt, did you have anything you want to add, or, I mean, especially?
No, I like the idea that David just came up with. I mean, it's sort of like as a matter of fact, Lauren could put together a checklist and 2 signatures at the bottom and make it crystal clear of, you know, of what Aaron feels are critical items for approval. And then we have it at the next meeting. And then we can parse it, you know, argue out, well, whether the fire chief should think this is important, and we do, and they don't, but at least then we would know. And we wouldn't have to keep referring back to this, and this seeming discordant remembrance of what was already looked at and approved and what actually doesn't appear to be approved. So, I don't know, that's probably all I could add, but I agree with everything everybody said.
Okay, great. So is there anything that you would need in order to feel satisfied and like that you could move ahead to make a decision on this case? I mean, any information that you feel you need? Because it'd be good to just have a, you know, get that all out on the table now.
I think there was one term that was coined were fire code issues. And I didn't totally understand what those were, since they all seem to be fire related. But if, you know, I guess I felt those were probably the more critical. And then there's the issue of fire code issues that apply to the structure that we're approving. And so I guess I would like to, you know, define better what those fire code issues are. And then the timelines make more sense to me. Because some of them, you know, it doesn't seem like we should be upset about the timeline if it's not that important an issue. Or we should be more upset about the timeline if it's a critical fire code issue.
Well, the timeline, I mean, I did rough out the timeline with, like March 2027, fire pump would be replaced. December 2027, fire alarm stations and egress stairwells would be fixed, and latching and locking mechanisms on the doors, December 2027 would be installed. So, I mean, you know, that in terms of like the critical path to getting all this work done, I mean, I wonder if the doors couldn't be moved up, or, you know, I don't know. And I wish that we'd have Aaron take a look and say,
It takes
like,
a whole sequential thing before you can do that. You have to have every step on the way before you can do any of those things.
right. Right, but, I mean, the doors are there now, right? So could you put locking mechanisms and latching and locking on and get that done sooner than 2.5 years from now?
Well, we may have to replace the doors because they may not meet fire code for, you know, the changed use. Apartment door is different than a hotel door.
Right. So you won't know that until December 2027?
Well, we'll know it, but it has to, we'll do the existing conditions, then the architect will do it, then the architect will say what it needs to be, and then it needs to go to the state, and the state needs to approve it, and then we get a permit, and then it gets built, and then after it gets built, it gets inspected. So it's, all of these things need to happen, but
Right. Well,
it can't be fast-tracked.
So in December 2025, this year, you're gonna have emergency lighting installed and 20-minute rated doors installed. That's just what you said. So if 20-minute rated doors, can't they come with latching and locking mechanisms? And so we don't have to wait like 2 more years for that to happen?
Vicky, rather than, you know, I don't know, I mean, I don't know that Lauren knows right this minute. I mean, can we, is this something we can rely on the state fire marshal to say that, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, or, you know, what I wanna know is like, what are the things that the fire chief says really need to be done and have, I don't know, maybe locking and latching mechanisms aren't really that important, but it seems like if you're gonna install the 20-minute rated doors, why wouldn't they have their
I mean,
latching
right,
and
right.
locks?
I don't know either, and
Yeah.
us asking this question, that's something that Aaron and Lauren can talk about. And if
Yeah.
the state fire marshal says, no, that's not critical right now, that might be, it might be completely rational to put that off till later. And if, you know, again, I think this, the more I think about it, having Aaron and Lauren talk
Mhm.
and come up with a list of criteria that the immediate stuff and bring that
Yeah.
back to us, that'll assure us that it's okay, it's acceptable. And then the state has, and then the state fire marshal has to be okay with the rest of the plan. Certainly, we shouldn't approve something that the state fire marshal says, no, but is that?
All right, so, I mean, Aaron's list isn't that long.
Right.
And the fire sprinkler systems need to maintain, reviewed, and proven. I mean, he's gonna, it sounds like Lauren's gonna get a whole new system.
Mhm.
And just, you know, so that, he doesn't say it needs to be done tomorrow.
And, you know, I think, could Aaron and Lauren work through the 37 items as well to say, oh yeah, that's done. This one, yeah, I'm gonna do it next week, and then that could be part.
And
That
provide
would sim-
documentation that it's done.
Yeah.
Right, documentation that it's done, but it also simplifies our life because we don't have to take time in this meeting to go through it.
Or look at photos, we have Aaron or somebody who actually knows what they're looking at.
Right, Aaron looks at it, Aaron says to David, yeah, it's fine, and if David tells us that Aaron says that it's okay,
Yeah,
then
but the thing is that when we get to, you know, go, okay, we wanna approve this, with the understanding that Lauren's gonna do all these things according to whatever the schedule is, we then need to have documentation that that's been done. And I'm happy that Aaron's happy, or the fire marshal's happy, somebody needs to be happy. And check it off the list, okay?
Right, yeah.
So, I don't care if it's, you know, either Aaron or the fire marshal, as long as we are sure that these things get done.
Is Aaron gonna volunteer to do all of this?
Good question.
Because, you know, it's gonna have to be set up as a schedule of inspections. And he probably thinks, well, this is all gonna be taken over by the state fire marshal.
I think that was the intent, was to, because he,
So to get Aaron off the hook in the first place.
he will get, time-wise, you know, it takes a lot of his time.
What we really
It's a
need from
volunteer.
Aaron is a schedule, like for, like, this needs to be done sooner than 2.5 years from now. That's really
Right.
what we need, and then to say of the things on his list, you know, when do those need to be done by? And that would make my life feel better if that was, and, because they were saying that some of these things, it was too far out, so.
Yep, right.
So that's really what I would wanna have you do, is go, when do these things need to be done by?
Okay, right, I mean, I think that's fair, and that, David's point about not asking Aaron to go inspect home on Connecticut every week, I mean,
No.
Aaron's probably would not be anxious to accept that responsibility.
And that's why if Lauren sent us pictures, I mean, that would
Right.
be fine. And then we have them and we can show them to Aaron in a batch and they're here and then we check them off. So,
Yep, yep. So that feels good to me.
so this list, Warren doesn't have a copy of this letter.
Yeah.
He needs one.
Okay.
Because it's, and it's, sorry that you didn't have it, because you could have, saved a lot of angst for me, because I thought that these units were occupied already, because that's what I was told, so. And then can you ask Aaron how, first of all, the occupancy, how do we confirm that? We've got two men who are.
They looked and, saw, dirty dishes in a sink, they saw bedding that was obviously been used, and, TVs with, gaming systems attached, and for them, they felt that that was signs of occupancy.
My boys are gonna use that as a bedroom. We've been gone for the last 6 months. They're back, they're not sleeping in there. The one with the kitchen, there's no reason we can't use the kitchen. It's just, it can't be occupied. There can't be someone, habitating that unit.
Right.
But we can still use the kitchen, we can still use the space. There's no, we could use the space before, there's no difference in that. The only difference is we're not there's no one sleeping there, they're not habitating in these units. But yeah, we've got stuff stored in there when we wanna cook, and we don't wanna do it in front of everybody, we'll go down there and use that.
Okay, well, at least from my perspective, that's all good. I don't doubt anything you're telling me, but I want you to tell Aaron and get you guys on the same page, because what he's telling us is somebody's living there. And us as a board, it makes me uncomfortable to rely on your statement when our fire chief is telling us something different. So it seems to me that there's, on that point and maybe a couple others, there's just a misunderstanding that needs to get sorted out.
All right, so, sounds like you, Warren and Aaron just need to talk, and then independently, David will ask Aaron a timeline for these things that he's flagged, and what would make him feel most comfortable. So we would have that hopefully in 2 weeks, by our next meeting. Warren, is there anything else you want to add, or is there anything else we can do besides giving you an approval tonight? Is there anything else we can do for you?
No, I appreciate all of your time, and I'm sorry I'm getting frustrated, I'm sorry I'm being defensive. I'm frustrated, and it's not your fault, so I appreciate all your time. You guys are all volunteers, and you're doing a great job, you're making sure that people are safe, you're making sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of our town, so I appreciate you and your time and effort into this project that, shouldn't have been this complicated, but here we are, and we're gonna get through it.
Okay, thank you very much. That was really nice of you to acknowledge everybody. Appreciate that.
Wait, we're not getting paid?
You get paid, but.
Okay, so our next meeting is the 14th of August.
Let me just double check. Too far. Yes, the 14th of August.
And are you in town and available then, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so hopefully we'll have some answers for you, you know, from our fire chief about some schedule changes that they would like to have seen by then. And,
We wanna have Aaron here too.
I'll ask Aaron to be.
yeah. If you would send us where you've said completed, there are a bunch of things, if you could send us the pictures, that'd be good. And we can say, oh yeah, this list is good for us. If you don't get to it in 2 weeks, that's, you know, that's okay, I'm not sure I don't know what we'll do in 2 weeks, so, but that would help us move toward it, and you'll be in touch with Lauren about when his septic gets approved, so that.
Yep, I'm going
there's
to,
some
I'm
certainty about that,
gonna try to get that done tomorrow,
okay.
and it's
So-
all electronics, so
Yep.
it'll go back to the state quickly.
Good, because that's great that you're attending to that right away, really appreciate that.
And if his contractor's on site, I'd like to get that
Yep,
done so that
Yep.
he can get that
yep.
installed as soon
Anything
as
else
possible.
from anybody, thoughts, comments? Okay, well, thank you, Lauren, sorry this is so difficult, we're trying to do our best. And we'll see you August 14th. And we'll
All
have
right,
you
thank you all.
number 1 on the agenda again, so we can plow through as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
All right, thank you for bringing this, Evie. Helpful.
Which, it's probably an item of new business, but what would it take to ask applicants to provide an electronic copy of their submissions as well?
It'd be easy, if that one is a hand drawing, and I don't know, if you could scan that, even though the plotter is still down. Finding someone to fix it has been a bear, but it still will scan. It was up and running for a few days and then died again. I've downloaded the service manual, and I've been going through it, trying to figure out myself, following all the diagnostics. But I don't have a whole lot of time to sit and
So-
read a 400-page manual.
Yes, right, but, a lot of the stuff we get is electronic,
Yep.
and so I don't know that you always get an electronic copy,
So some I do, some I don't.
because it'd be really nice to have it, I for one might not even ask for the big sheet, just to study it, electronically.
You must have a reading monitor.
I do. I have a giant projector, no. But would we have to change any of our applications or stuff like that?
I can just ask for it as a,
I mean, it's,
and then again, some of it, there are some people who still do things old school. If you get anything from Pioneer, they're old school, it's all paper.
okay.
And then, but I can scan the stuff.
Well, that's interesting, right, and that would be worth a relatively small number of things.
Yeah.
That'd be great, that'd be fabulous.
Yeah, so if you want something that's electronic that I have given you in paper, let me know. I can always
Right.
scan it and get it to you that way.
All right, folks, we have minutes from July 10th, 2025. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Does anybody have any comments or suggestions or corrections or amendments? And, okay.
I'll move them.
Thank you. Second?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And do you have
One there,
extension? Okay, so
Abstention.
Matt abstaining. Okay, the other item on our agenda is discussion of possible zoning amendments for 2026 town meeting. We have, two things that were submitted last time. Do we have is everyone there wanna get up and jump around, or, is everyone awake enough to talk about these things? Yeah,
How
okay.
long are we gonna talk?
9 o'clock, we turn into pumpkins, so probably, okay, so we do not, nobody functions well after 8:30 actually, but, in that we have two people that have done their homework. But we have Nat here. So Nat, do you wanna tell us, what your thinking was with your lodging accommodation, changes? So it looks like you're, broadening and defining, and, do you have it?
I don't
Okay,
actually.
well, here, I printed it, I printed mine out because I was very impressed with all your tables and things. What was your thinking kind of in dealing with this? Because it looks like you're bringing in short-term rentals as well as the, transient,
It was to be
non-transient.
comprehensive,
Okay,
and, which meant to define what short-term rental were,
yep,
and to define the, the facility that would handle them. And, or at least in common practice, the facilities
Yep.
that handle them. And thereby sort of draw a distinction between, something like a bed and breakfast and an apartment building.
right,
And I guess what I learned in the process of going through this, is there were lots of names for different things, and they vary a little bit. And I guess I kept in the back of my mind, okay, so what is home on Connecticut, And,
Right.
It ended up coming in something like a rooming house, Wasn't really a bed and breakfast, it was an apartment building. But it, did have long-term, and I know that this wasn't a state level, set of definitions, but it was a set of definitions that were in common parlance, and you could sort of peg them into permanent lodging. The distinctions I thought were best was the 30-day limit,
yep,
as transient or non-transient. The tough one is, if you're non-transient, what's the difference between that being your home and it being someplace that you're staying transiently,
right,
just longer transiently?
right,
And the only real answer to that is, or the best answer is that you have a residence somewhere else. Okay, and if someone has a residence somewhere else, then it's not and they're paying to stay in this place, then it is not their home. Now, that's probably not that useful because it's hard to verify, but that's the one that comes up. Beyond that, the issue of uses, site plan review or not, was really looking at the Hanover zoning and trying to equate the various areas of Hanover with our various areas. And then to suggest where we would allow, by site plan review, different things. And, it was, pretty simple to come up with that, because it's just really expanding that one row into, a transient, non-transient set of terms
Right.
that define a lot of different things. But we do have something like, don't we have something like an assisted living facility, like right next door here?
Right next door, yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we have a lot of these things that we don't talk about that much, but they exist. And I believe, is that just over the Lyme common line?
well,
Yes.
that was put in for zoning.
Yeah.
In fact, we
so
had a
it's-
precursor to zoning adopted when that thing was being proposed. So we could regulate that, even though we couldn't regulate anything else.
So it's grandfathered
It's,
in.
it's very much grandfathered
Yeah,
and not,
yeah.
not permitted under our zoning.
Well,
but-
that plus Lauren, I couldn't think of any other,
Right,
sort of aberrancies in the town.
right, so he would say extended stay, he's an extended stay hotel is what he would say, because he doesn't have
That's-
tenants.
He said hotel, and, yeah, I thought,
Well, why is it called home on the Connecticut? I mean, well,
home is just,
home.
it's to make
Well,
you
he said
think
people
about.
are staying
I
there
mean,
3 months.
some people call their hotels homes. I mean, isn't there one that's,
The residence inn. Right
yeah,
there,
the Residence Inn, there you
Right,
go.
right.
In the legal world, there's this idea that captions in the statute, like titles that they stick out just don't really have legal effect.
Right.
Somewhere in that.
That's what,
So
that's, I mean, I
simply,
wanted to say
he's calling
something
that 'cause it-
smart like that, but
because
that was
he's-
what I was thinking.
Well, and
That's
the
what-
other thing is, it changed from breakfast on the Connecticut
Right,
to home on the Connecticut. And, you didn't want, I think, from a marketing standpoint, you didn't want to lose the on the Connecticut part.
Well, I don't know, I called them a couple of times to see if I could go over there for breakfast. I did it once when I lived in Edna. I forgot that I ever had that, and the guy said, no, I don't serve breakfast. And
Because it was
and I
a
said,
bed and
why do you
breakfast.
call this breakfast on the
right,
Connecticut?
right.
And he said, well, I'm a bed and breakfast, that's it. I'll serve you breakfast if you come and stay here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't serve breakfast.
Yeah.
And then I did it again a few years later, because I forgot I'd ever done it,
Oh.
and got the same answer.
So his story is straight, that's good.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that we did have several folks register to vote from there last November. So they were counting it as their
Home, yeah.
well, yes and no. College kids can vote from their universities, from towns. They can vote from panel.
Yep, I'm not complaining.
And it's not their home.
I'm not complaining, I'm just establishing that people are there in some kind of residential form.
Yeah,
Well, you could either say that, or you could say that, that there is no requirement, absolute requirement in this country that you vote from your residence anymore,
Well, I mean,
As
New
long as you only
Hampshire,
vote once.
as long as you only vote once,
yeah,
exactly.
well, New Hampshire dances around the notion of domicile too, which I have not dug into the details of it, but are you domiciled at Dartmouth College dorms? And, right, so,
Well, that's probably something they cooked up just for voting.
maybe, so, that kind of comes back to the question I was gonna ask is, what's the, what do we think we would do with this definition of lodging or residence or whatever? What would the point of this be? What ordinance change would we
Well,
consider making?
he's got like these uses that would just have site plan review, and then he's suggested locations, districts for them.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
I have it up here on the.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah,
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 right.
so this is an omnibus, so this is like, big.
Yeah, I
big
didn't
thing.
expect this to be accepted
No, no,
in
no,
total.
no, no, but this
But I
is
thought
great.
it would
This is like,
be
oh,
something, this is
yeah.
like a menu of things that
Right,
you could
right,
grab,
Right,
Mhm.
right.
and with definitions.
So, okay, I just, like, my neighbor, totally happy with the situation. She owns a place, she rents it to students, for like 10 months. And she comes up and uses the place for 5 weeks, and then there's maintenance, and then the students come back. So would that be an unhosted long-term rental?
Yeah. that's what
Unhosted
I-
long-term
that's what I'm
rental.
thinking.
Yeah,
1 to 6 months.
yep,
limited sometimes to certain months,
Yeah.
because it's often has to
Yeah.
do with either the seasons or the school
Right,
year.
well,
or-
they're like more 9 months or 10 months, rental, because they're coming in August and leaving in May or June, so, but, so I don't, and does it,
But this is stuff actually took right out of Hanover's.
oh, I know, yep.
But they, they just throw it into a long list and say, these are things that are permitted in.
Yep. Yep, no, I was
this
there,
district.
I
Yeah, you
did the
know.
public hearings on all these things. So, I mean, I would say that 1 to 6 is maybe, is too short. So I mean, for that kind of situation, I'm trying to make it realistic for the type of, so that people aren't violating the zoning, when they're trying to use their property and, and that it fits in, so that was just my comment for that.
So, Rich, if you were looking at the one non-transient, non-permanent, where do you think the Loch Lime Lodge condominiums fit in?
So it's interesting, they are currently zoned as lodging, which has specific definition in the Lyme ordinance. And
Lodging accommodations, yeah.
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 And so, in fact, they are frequently rented by people that come and stay for a couple of weeks. The owners of the cabins, some of them come and stay for 6 or 8 weeks, or even 10 weeks in the summer.
And they also sublet, or not
Well,
sublet,
so
but they can rent them, right?
They let the management of Rockland Lodge
Rent.
manage the rentals, so that,
And the rentals are long, like up to 6 months, or are they shorter?
they're typically a few weeks.
Oh, typically a few
Yeah.
weeks. So it's,
They're not all season.
so it's probably like a hosted, short-term rental.
Well, it's not, I mean, is it hosted, did the management provides the meals, right? So, or are people totally independent?
It depends, I mean,
So there's.
some
cabins are all
places
separate.
have kitchens,
Yeah.
and so they could, I mean, we
Right.
also happen to serve meals on Sundays,
Right,
Monday,
yeah.
Tuesdays. So our managers today do live on site, so that would probably be hosted. And
Those are separate dwelling units, because they're separate condominiums.
So they're
It's
not dwelling units.
right, they're
Sorry,
separate,
separate units.
separate units, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And so, just because it's, so, I mean, I think, as I remember back to the original subdivision hearing, this board insisted that it be classed as lodging as opposed to residential, as opposed to somebody actually living there.
Yeah.
But, so lodging is not, oh, by site plan review.
Yeah.
That's right.
And before we get to 9 o'clock, there's one other thing I think we have to address at some point, and that has to do with Rich's propane tank.
Right.
You probably can't talk to us as a board member about that because you're conflicted.
Well, in
but-
fact, tonight, if I got here a few minutes earlier, I would have asked David if it would be helpful for me to send you an official letter asking if you would like to arrange a meeting with me and representatives of the fire department to work on the language.
That would be good. I have I've started some language, it's kind of good, assigned to me to,
Right.
and so I've started some language. I have not gotten very far, but that is,
But you have to be careful here because you're on the board and you're personally interested in this, so.
Yes.
I think if you need to, my view is that you should recuse yourself as a board member when this topic is being addressed. if you want to, as a individual Lyme citizen, submit a suggestion or submit a petition that says, here's what I'd like the language to be, that's fine for you to send that to the board, but David ought to be working for us and not you in whatever he's preparing,
Yes,
and that has to be clear.
And I have language that is completely different than what Rich is.
Okay, well, okay,
Stated
so
in
that's not being forgotten.
Okay, yeah, I just don't want it to be forgotten
Yeah,
because
no, it's.
on
it's
select
on
board
my-
end, we're
That's a
holding
select board.
enforcement
Yeah.
in abeyance,
Yeah, yeah.
and we can do that for some period of time, but we can't do it forever.
Yeah.
And
So-
no, it is on, I've been working on it, and that is,
I don't mean to
Yeah.
rush anything, I just
that's
don't
good.
want it to be
No, this,
forgotten.
it's really good to keep that. What we did was we had the list of zoning amendments that should be considered, and everybody picked one. So Nat did his homework and gave us this, and that's why we're reviewing this. And he also submitted this list of possible facilities, observing that our list of uses is kind of small. And, you know, these list of facilities, they might want to exist on their own or be subsumed into one of our larger categories, so that lodging accommodation would include, you know, TP sales or something like that, if that was what you're.
Yurts,
Yes.
yurts.
Yeah, so anyway, so we are, and I guess, guys, we're about to turn into pumpkins. So I think this, everybody should familiarize yourself with this.
Yep.
Think about like what might be missing, and regrettably, the whole thing with the short-term rental and how do we, like, we have to have a short-term rental registration situation if we're gonna be actually straight-faced trying to regulate those things. And then the other question is, could we drop the whole short-term rental here and try to deal with this list without short-term rental, so we wouldn't have to try to keep track of it? So that's just, because it could be that we'd say short-term rental is an accessory use to your residential building, and we don't care, we don't wanna count days or whatever. So, I mean, that's just a different way of sorting out that situation. It would be good to address it, but not regulate it like Hanover does.
It's a headache.
It takes a lot of people to keep track of that, so. Any other business that we need to get to for
no, I
tonight?
have no new.
Does this board have any, you know that the statutory change with respect to class 6 roads, does that affect us at all? By the way, that thing you put together was friggin' awesome.
Oh, good, I'm glad, it's,
It was a hit at the select board meeting.
It was a big hit.
oh,
Well,
good, I'm glad, I just,
you guys know about this? There's state law that was enacted that eliminates a town's ability to deny a building permit for someone located on a class 6 road, to the extent that the class 6 road property owner is willing to record and essentially an affidavit saying, I understand I'm on a class 6 road and I don't expect the
You're
town to
never
plow
coming
or
to help,
take care of my
right.
road.
That's
and that I can be
674
insured.
Yeah,
67441 has always allowed that.
Yeah.
So, that's always been the case, but the fact that we can't deny it, assuming that they do that is the difference. is
so I
that-
know at the select board meeting, you know, the question arose, well, do we have any of these locations where this change has occurred that we would want to go to the town meeting and say, let's make these trails
Yeah,
so that we can develop.
right.
I don't know if, I just don't know if this board, if that's in our jurisdiction or if that's something we
Well,
want
it's
to
part of
consider.
like our land use plan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be good for Conservation Commission to talk to us about it.
Well, we should David should send us the list that he put together, because he went and looked at all the places this applies and sort of what the potential consequences
Yeah.
of the change are within the town.
So you're saying, make all these things trails so that we don't actually have to deal with this.
You probably can't make all of them trails, because some of them already have.
Or
them.
make,
Yeah, I think
make,
you
make the
can.
ones that are,
Yeah, but there may be locations where we would say,
Just-
well, to
just-
avoid this
just-
problem,
just
let's
make
turn it
it-
into a
Right.
trail. Then it's not a class six
Right.
road, then you can't,
Right.
you're back to the status quo ante.
Maybe here's a, I don't wanna say, a fine point of law, I guess. So the RSA specifically says you cannot deny a building permit. The town of Lyme does not issue building permits, we issue zoning permits, because we don't have a building inspector. So the question is,
We'd have to ask town council.
yeah, that's, but I think it would be a question that I can ask Laura. But
Yeah, Laura's probably the right one.
in my mind, it occurred to me that we don't issue a building permit, so.
Maybe we're unaffected, that's probably a little too cute to hold up, but.
Yeah, well, it's only if someone
Is that
challenges
a
it in
legal
court.
term of art? Too cute?
But, it's,
Yeah.
I assume that the intent of the law is all
Yeah.
permits for construction, not just the specific, but the way that they define building, and building permit is a specific thing in state
Yeah.
law.
The change from a class six road to a public trail involves, like research into the historic use of the properties that are served by that class six road. Because people that have, say, farm fields and they bring agricultural equipment, or if they log, or if they sugar, they need to still have access to those places, because, and so that they need to be guaranteed their traditional vehicular use on that access way. So it's, you could do probably a couple of roads a year, because to do your due diligence and to work with the property owners, it would.
I'm not suggesting that we do any.
Well, I think it's a really good idea, but.
It's just a question.
Yeah.
I don't know, folks probably remember, we had this whole kerfuffle with Shoestrap Road at the
Yeah.
last town meeting, where there were a couple of proposals to change that into a trail of one sort or another, and the select board brought forth a couple of options, and the town voted down all of them, so.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, that's another one that if we have a champion, see, I think what we decided was that zoning amendments that we would address this year needed to have an advocate. And if somebody wanted to, that's not really a zoning thing, but, wanted to take that on as their project, and work, I think, with Conservation Commission, and do the research and all that.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we get David's form circulated, because that gives people an idea about whether we even care about anything.
Yes.
Scope of it.
And then we
Yeah.
can talk about, we can raise it again.
David, would you
Yeah.
send
By the
that
way,
as a
I would
PDF?
like to thank you for picking up the chair position, especially tonight, that was
Yeah.
not fun.
Here,
And,
I
yeah.
know, well, I wish I had some advance notice, because I could have been a little more organized.
no,
Oh, you didn't
but
see
It was a
that-
very good job,
No.
Vicki.
It wasn't gonna be fun even if you were organized,
I
because
know.
there was hard
I was sort of
feelings.
seeing it coming to me, so it's.
he was ducking.
Well, that.
Thank you for picking that up.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
For next time, I think we're still pushing the survey
Yes,
forward.
we are pushing the
Here,
survey
here's
forward, and
the-
that was a question I had. Is there any money that we could use to get our survey out? Is this has been,
Probably, I don't know.
Probably.
Oh, is this the most recent draft?
yes.
Yes,
Thank
this
you.
was Vicky's edits, and then I did some extra work, and then we talked about it briefly 2 weeks ago.
Right, and we would be essentially bringing this.
And I took all of the things that you,
How much money does it require,
Did
David?
anyone ever look at my
Around
alternative to
$2,000.
question 3?
I'll try to remember.
I think
to
we
ask
did.
them.
And,
You didn't like it?
we could probably trim
It's a
that
year.
down if the board was willing to
So-
stuff in
No.
notes.
Okay.
This
That
board,
would-
not the
Okay.
select board.
the
Well,
interest,
they
Easy to
could
bring it up
join,
again, huh?
absolutely.
Well, I just thought
But
that,
if we
that more
printed it-
numbers would,
I'll try to remember.
the
that.
interesting,
You know, if we printed it in-house,
had
it would
got
drop
data
it
from
to
the
under
school
1,000.
admin,
Right.
It would just be the
which is,
postal
Oh, good.
patron cost.
Oh, I haven't, yeah.
I put it in questions 7.
And depending
Okay,
if
great.
it's
About,
4
there's
pages or
150
less,
combined families, and,
um,
then we
yeah,
have
if
to
it gets
think about
heavy,
how we
then
wanna present
that
that
cost is
statistic.
gonna go up.
Yeah,
Cause it's like
I'll try to remember
Thank you
that.
for
as
doing
the
that.
next
80% of
select
Lyme households have no kids in the school system.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, well, good.
Good.
So, I guess according to our schedule, we would be talking about this master plan stuff, on the 14th after we, meet with Warren and hopefully our.
Madam Chair, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll
Please,
second.
Yes, yes.
We're
welcome.
gonna do master plan next time or survey?
Well, that's part of the master plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.